Welcome to Live Daf, your online Daf Yomi Shir.
Shalom Aleichem and welcome back to today's Daf Yomi, which is Kesubos Daf Nun Vav. We are holding 17 lines from the top of the Amud. And we are going back to our Mishnah once again, where we learned that according to Rabbi Yehuda Kessler, typically a man has the ability to commit more than the standard base Ksuba amount of 200 zuz for the Besula. That extra supplemental commitment is called Tesefes Kesuba. Now, if something should happen during engagement, a divorce or death, according to Tanakama, the Isha can collect the entire amount, the regular Ksuba amount plus the Tesefes Kesuba, whereas Rabbi Yehuda says absolutely not. The Tesefes was only meant to be given to her post-marriage. But if it's still premature, it's still before the actual marriage took place, he never meant to commit at that early stage. Says the Gemara, Boy Ravan. Ravan had a shaila. What if the process has, been activated somewhat? Nichnas al-chuppah. She had already experienced chuppah with him, but not past that. There was no interaction between them as married. Mahu. What would happen in this case if he passes away? Is she owed the Tesefes Kesuba as well, or not yet? What are the two sides of this coin? Shall we say chibas chuppah, the endearment generated by their joint chuppah experience is sufficient to grant her rights to the Tesefes Kesuba as well? Or shall we say chibas bia koina, the actual interaction between them later on would trigger the Tesefes Kesuba commitment, the endearment generated by that experience, but if it's still before that, it's only chuppah, she's not entitled to the extra payment. Tashma, here comes a raya to this shaila. The Tani Rav Yosef presented a brisa. You know why? She does not collect Tesefes Kesuba when she is only an arusa, when she's only engaged. The reason is Shalai Kasavla, because this fellow only committed to her Ella al Chibas Leila Harishain due to the endearment generated by that first night. Now, why did Rav Yosef make reference to the first night? This works perfectly if you say that the endearment generated by the chuppah experience, that is what grants her the right to collect the Tesefes. Hainu de Amar Laila Harishan. That explains why he referred to the first night, because that's when the chuppah takes place on the night of the wedding. Eloi Amras Chibas Bia Koina. But if it's associated with the endearment of Bia, what does it have to do with the first night? Bia, this experience, Balayla Harishan Isa, only occurs on the first night, Mekan ve'elach lesa, but not past the first night. He should not have made reference to the first night. The brisa should have simply said, well, she only gets the ksuba because of the marriage of the bia. Why mention the first night? The fact that he references the first night indicates that we're speaking about something which occurs on that first night, dafka, which is the chuppah. Ve'elamai chuppah. Okay, so what are you saying? That the reference here is to the chuppah event? Well, then why mention night? Chuppah balayla isa b'yimam alesa. A chuppah only takes place at night and not by day. Now, according to you, okay, so it's the bia that is being referred to. Well, there as well. Why are you mentioning night? Is that the only time that bia can occur? Bia balayla isa b'yimam during daytime lesa. It doesn't exist by day. So why would he mention night? Yeah. Says the Gemara, Ha'amar Rava, actually, Imhaya Bavayis Afil Mutter. Even during daytime, Bia is technically permitted if it's in a Bayis Afil, a dark room. So, why would the Brisa make reference to night time in reference to Bia? Well, says the Gemara, Halai Kasha, that wouldn't be a problem, because that's typical, that's standard, that's accepted, a custom. Oirach Ara, Kamash Malan, the Brisa is referring to the ordinary custom, the derech eretz, which is the bia balayla. Bia takes place at night. ela chuppah kasha. But if it's a reference to chuppah, then why would you insist on describing it as a nighttime event? So it sounds like the Brisa is speaking about bia and not chuppah. Answer: chuppah nami lo kasha. Even if the point of reference is chuppah, we can very well understand why it refers to it as a nighttime event. Given the stam chuppah libia kaima, because since typically chuppah leads into bia, oirach arakam ashmalan, the Brisa is simply referring to the common practice, the balayla boy, that takes place at night. Some Mefarshim ask from Taisus and Beis Amud Aleph, where Taisus says that chuppah takes place by day, ha'ara akasha on the Lashon HaGemara here. In any case, we had a shaila whether a chuppah can create an endearment which triggers his commitment to give out the Tosefes Ksuba, or do we need the bia itself? We attempted to bring it right from a brisa this way and that. We don't really have a conclusion. By Rav Ashi, here comes another shaila from Rav Ashi. Nichnas al chuppah upirsa nida mal. What if there was a chuppah and then she became a nida? And some Rishonim learn that she was a nida prior to the chuppah. So the chuppah was a chuppah's nida. Mahu, what would you say in this case with respect to his Tosefes Ksuba commitments? Even if you'll tell me that the chuppah itself generates that commitment, let's assume that to be true. While chuppah de chazyu labia, perhaps it needs to be a chuppah which is suitable for bia, meaning an isha who is tahira. Aval chuppah de lechazyu labia loy, but perhaps this type of chuppah, which is not suitable for bia, perhaps does not qualify, would not activate the Tosefes Ksuba commitments. Or perhaps loishna, it makes no difference. A chuppah is a chuppah, and he is chayav teku, we let it stand. So bottom line is, according to this view of Rabbi Eliezer ben Azariah, that his Tosefes Ksuba commitments only gets triggered once the marriage commences. What is considered the initiation of marriage? Is chuppah alone enough? And even if it is enough, what about a chuppah snida? We leave it unresolved. Rabbi Yehuda Omer Ratza Kosev LeBesula V'chulu. Back to the Mishnah. So 200 zuz for the besula is standard. However, Rabbi Yehuda says you can cut some corners and get a discount. You can have the isha write you a receipt. I have received 100 of that amount. It's tantamount to a mechila. It's like she's forgiving the rest. And this way he gets away with half payment. So she can give him a receipt, and that absolves him of that amount. Is that so that according to Rabbi Yehuda, we're meant to write a receipt upon receiving payment? Listen to this Mishnah. Reuven lent Shimon $1 million. Shimon repays $500,000. How do you proceed? Rabbi Yehuda Omer Yachlif. The proper approach is switch the documents. Write a new loan document. You know why? This is better than giving him a receipt, because then if he loses that receipt, then Reuven can go ahead and reclaim the entire amount. So the proper solution, the responsible approach is rewrite a new shtar. He'll tear up the old one, write a new one for half the amount, dated today. Rabbi Yossi Omer, he disagrees. Yichtav lo yishever. Let Reuven issue a receipt for half the amount, rather than redoing the document, which puts the lender at a disadvantage, because if you're redoing the document from today's date, then the Baal Chayv can only collect properties sold after today's date, rather than properties sold after the previous date. Those properties are rightfully his. He has a real claim starting from the date of the original loan. So instead of redoing the shtar, which puts the malva at a disadvantage, give him a receipt. So bottom line is, according to Rabbi Yehuda, we avoid writing receipts. So why do we make a reference to writing receipts in our Mishnah? The Isha gives the husband a receipt for half the amount, but I'm meant to write receipts because he might lose the receipt. and then she'll collect the entire amount. That's unfair. Amar Rabbi Yirmiyah, you're right. No receipts. We're speaking that the shaver, which is a term for receipt, it's a shaver is lashon of shavira, breaking. You're mitigating the power of the shtar. You're cutting away part of the amount. So bottom line is, you write the shaver, you write the receipt text into the ksuba itself. So now she can never collect the entire amount. He doesn't have to look after receipts. There is no receipt. The ksuba itself is a sort of a self-receipt. So we avoid that concern. Abaye Omar, Abaye has a different teretz. Even if you did not put the shaver into the ksuba, I could still explain why we allow a ksuba, a shaver, a receipt to be issued in our case. Why is this different than a typical transaction? Says Abaye, big difference. Bishleima hasam, vade pari. Certainly in the case of the Baal Chayv, he already paid half the amount. Now, Dilma Mirkas Tavarta. The concern is, you'll give him a receipt. He might lose Mirkas. He might lose the Tavarta. Tavarta is lashon of shaver. He might lose that document, that receipt. And then the Malva, the Baal Chayv, the creditor will pull out his loan document, which has the full amount, v'hadar, and he'll repeat, Gabi zimnachrino. He'll go ahead and reclaim the entire amount. We want to avoid that. We avoid writing receipts. Rather, we redo the entire shtar. Hacha. But in the case of the husband, who convinced his wife to write him a receipt for half the amount without even getting a penny, vada yahavlo. Are we speaking that he actually gave her? Of course not. Milsa ba'alma. It's just a gesture. The amrle that she's telling him that she's offering to him. Just giving him a discount. But this receipt isn't rightfully belonging to him, and therefore we don't have to be too concerned if he loses it. Natre, if he looks over it and he watches it, natre, fine. So he's in luck. Eloi natre, he doesn't look after it and he loses it. Ihu, the husband himself, he brought about his own loss. It's his fault if he loses his receipt. We're not going to be too concerned about this husband and his receipt. So the question was, why do we receipt the husband? Rav Yirmiyah says, we're speaking that the receipt is in the ksuba. Nobody's losing this receipt. Abaye says, he didn't really pay it. He's getting a free receipt. Look after it. Bishlem Abaye. I understand why Abaye le'amak Rabbi Yirmiyah. He didn't want Rabbi Yirmiyah's teretz like Tani shivarta metecha, because the Mishnah doesn't indicate that the receipt was actually penned into the ksuba. Elder Rav Yirmiyah, but why did Rav Yirmiyah my time alam Abaye? Why didn't he follow Abaye's rather simple differentiation? Why wouldn't the receipt in our sugya be treated differently than the ordinary receipt? The answer is Gzeira Shaver Dahacha Ato Shaver Da'alma. You're right. Here it's very different, but we're concerned. It's a Gzeira that if you allow it over here, it might lead somebody to do the same in a typical Baal Chayv situation, which is to be avoided. Okay. Asks the Gemara Kasha. So according to Rabbi Yehuda, although he's chayiv the full amount, you can have his wife give him a receipt for half the amount, which is an expression of forgiveness. Be meichel the chiv that you really have towards me. Tama the kasvale. It only works because she actually issued a receipt to him indicating, I'm forgiving half the amount. Aval al peh loy. But suppose they sit down and have a discussion, and they precondition the marriage based on this type of half commitment. They make a tanai. Does that work? No. If it's just a verbal tanai, that doesn't work. Why? Amai, why doesn't it work? So although he's chayiv to her, but even when you're chayiv something and you make it tanai, if it's a financial matter, you can make a tanai to sort of rearrange a chayiv that the Torah gives you. You can do that. Davar sheba mamonu. It's something which is associated with finances. V'shamine li Rabbi Yehuda. We know that according to Rabbi Yehuda, the Amar, he said, davar shebamamet noi kayam. Even if there's a din Torah to pay, to commit, to obligate, but if it's monetary issues, you can sit down with your colleague and work it out. You can rearrange financial obligations. The Sanya, ha'imel isha, he approaches a woman. Harayat mukadeshasli, you're going to be my wife. Amanas, on condition that I have very little obligation. Shein la chalai, you have no claim against me. Whether it's she'er, right, feed you, ksus, clothing, vina, spending time with you as married. I'm marrying without obligations. Harezim mukadesha, so the kedushin takes effect. Utunoi batal, but the stipulation goes out the window. You can't go against the Torah, which obligates a man to commit to his wife in these respects. That's Rameir's shita. You can't be masna al masha kosa b'Torah. Rabbi Yehuda disagrees. It all depends on which aspect we're speaking about. Rabbi Yehuda Omer, true, the emotional, physical aspect you can't give up. But b'davar shebemamin, but the financial components of marriage, the she'er, the ksus, t'noi kayam, the condition sticks. So by the ksuba as well. Why write a receipt? Why be meichel? Initially, they should sit down and rearrange their commitments. I'm only giving you half the ksuba. What's wrong with that? It's a tanai, but it's davar shebemamin. The answer is Kesav Rabbi Yehuda, Ksuba de Rabbanan. Oh. Rabbi Yehuda is of the opinion that the Yechi of Ksuba is only with the Rabbanan. V'chachamim also chizuk l'devrayim yosem shel Torah. And we find that at times Chachamim chose to reinforce their words, their takana, even more than the Torah, due to the fact that sometimes people tend to take the Divrei Chachamim lightly and negate them, disregard them. So takanas chachamim sometimes requires greater reinforcement than the Torah. So it's t'nai of a davar shebamamin pertaining to a din Torah takes effect, but pertaining to a din d'Rabbanan like Suba has no effect. Asks the Gemara, Harei Peres d'Rabbanan. Let's take another example of a rabbinic privilege pertaining to finances. Peres. His wife brings in a field. It's called nichsei malug. He takes the produce, right? That's his zuchus. The Rabbanan gave him that right. We don't find the Chacham were too concerned about that takan. The Snan, we find the Mishnah. Rabbi Yehuda Omer, Rabbi himself says you can cancel that right. Speaking at a case that he gave up these rights. He says, I'm not going to have your peris. So what happens? So you can't take the peris. But what about the peris, second generation fruit? Meaning he'll take the fruit, won't use them, he'll sell them, buy a new piece of land for his wife, and use that new piece of land for himself. Can he do that? Yes. Peris, he still has the privilege to take the second generation produce, unless he writes all out. An outright relinquishing of rights. Din udvarim ainli. I have no interaction, no claims. B'nechasayach, and your assets, or perisein, and the produce, or perisein, and their produce is produce. Any profits go to you. Ad olam, forever and ever. Bottom line is, this is Rabbi Yehuda speaking about a schus d'Rabbanan, and we have no problem with him giving up those rights. We don't see the Chacham concerned about their takana and give it a chizuk which doesn't allow manipulation or rearrangement. And we know for a fact, my kosev, when the Mishnah said that he writes, means Omer, he said it, he stipulated it as a t'nai. So a t'nai works. Why is it different than the ksuba where it doesn't work? Amar Abaye, a big difference. L'koil yesh ksuba, everybody has a ksuba, that's standard fare. V'lo l'koil yesh peres, but the peres isn't necessarily applicable to everybody. Not everybody has this field where he takes the pears, and therefore we can explain the difference. Also, the shchicha, something which is common, like suba, of the Rabban chizuk, Chacham apply the chizuk, don't tinker, don't manipulate, don't rearrange. But the Paris, which is milsa d'leishchicha, something which is not necessarily so common, we're not so concerned. Chachamim did not trouble themselves to make a chizik. In any case, it's not such a common thing. Asks the Gemara, Hari Chachamim. What about the donkey drivers who deliver the produce, the grain into town? And they are Amei Ha'aretz, not learned fellows, not reliable in terms of their Truma and Maaser status. Their produce is called Demai. And this is something which is very common. The shchichi, right? They're commonly, found. We do not find the Chachamim adding reinforcement in that case. It's not. Hachamaran shenichnas olir. These fellows enter town. V'amar echad mem, and Reuben declares, Shali chodesh. My grain is relatively fresh, unsuitable for grinding. Leave it alone. But look, my colleague here, he's got good quality grain, old and dry and perfectly fine for grinding. So he's sort of putting himself down, negating himself in face of his friend. My produce isn't yet kosher. It's tevel. The truma and maser was not yet tended to. My friends, that's kosher. So although he's putting himself down, he's praising his friend, you would think he's reliable. Ein ne'eman, you can't trust him. You can't trust him. We're concerned about perhaps goimlin, Rashi says. Maybe they're scheming. I'll help you here. I'll scratch your back, you scratch mine, and the next town you'll help me. Rabbi Yehuda, he's not concerned about this setup. He says they're to be trusted. The fact that he's speaking about his friend's produce, not about his own, it sounds legitimate. It sounds real. Now, Demai is a din d'Rabbanan. When you buy produce from Amaretz, there's a concern about its kashrus. So why does the reader say we believe the Amaretz when he's testifying about his fellows' merchandise, about his colleagues' merchandise? Why don't we make a chizuk if it's a davar d'Rabbanan? Omar by vaday d'divreim, when it's an absolute, a takanas chazal, like Suba, Avdu Rabbanan Chizuk, Rabbanan sought to reinforce, to keep it intact. But Demai, which is merely suffix to Divrei, it's a din Rabbanan based on an uncertainty. We don't really know the status of this grain. It's only a suffix, and therefore, Avdu Rabbanan Chizuk, Rabbanan did not step up to make extra reinforcements. We have room for leeway and leniency. Rav Amar, he has another teretz, but Demai Yikilu, specifically when it comes to Demai, this is even worse than a regular suffix. This is, Rashi says, Roiv Ame Ha'aretz, take off Maser. So if you follow the Roiv principle, which is standard fare and Kala Terakula, this stuff should be kosher. But there's an extra chumrah, because even though it's a miut, it's just a small percentage which is problematic, but it's a commonly found miut. So we're machmer, take off the Maser before you eat it. But since the chashash is so weak, so to speak, so there's room for kula, and we trust this fellow when he's testifying about his friend's produce. So bottom line is, we had a kasha. Why are we writing receipts? According to Rabbi Yehuda, there are no receipts to be written when there's partial payment. We're concerned about the fellow losing the receipt. We have two terutzim. Either they inserted the receipt into the ksuba, in which case she can never collect more than is entitled to her. Well, another teretz is his husband never really paid much to earn this receipt, so if he loses it, it's his problem. Then we moved on to the idea of masna mashakasa b'Torah. There's a halacha in the Torah. Can you make it tonight to rearrange that halacha? Rabbi Meir says nothing doing, null and void. Rabbi Yehuda says when it's davar sheba'mammon it works, but as the Gemara tells us, if it's a din d'Rabbanan, we seek to make a chizuk, in which case we can't manipulate, you can't rearrange. Demai is an exception because it's only a suffix or a chumrah, according to Rava. So back to the Mishnah where we have Rabbi Meir Omer, kol ha'poichas v'chul. So in contrast to Rabbi Yehuda who says you can go ahead and get a discount on your ksuba, Rabbi Meir says if he's going to get a discount, if he's going to deduct from the standard ksuba commitment, then it's tantamount to engaging in znus, because the marriage is based on commitment, on obligation, on loyalty. If there's no monetary loyalty, There's not much of a marriage. Now the Gemara is going to make a diuk in Rabbi Meir's wording, his choice of wording. Kol ha'peiches. If you try to deduct from your ksuba amount, then it's inappropriate. Afilu b'tzna, which sounds like even if he stipulated it as a condition. And as we know, according to Rabbi Meir, when you condition against the Torah, it doesn't work at all. So his discussion, his deduction is really null and void. He made an attempt to deduct. He only promises her, less than the standard amount. But in actuality, he's going to give it because it's a t'nai against the Torah. So we're not even speaking about actually giving her less. Rather, he promised her less. That's also a problem. Even if he made a t'nai which doesn't really work, he's going to have to pay it out. It's a problem. Alma Kosover. It sounds from Rabbi Meir that really t'nai batal. The t'nai is worthless. He attempted to make a t'nai. He attempted to give her less, but it's not going to work. V'islan, she has full claim to the full amount. So what's the problem? The problem is, since he only promised her a mana, she's not fully there. She's not really assured about receiving this amount because her husband's not promising her more than 50% of the ksuba, and that's the problem. It's a lack of commitment, a lack of loyalty, a lack of cohesion, and therefore it's considered znus. Because she perceives that lack of commitment to the marriage, and therefore it's inappropriate. Asks the Gemara, what do you mean? So you're telling me that the t'nai doesn't work, right? Even though the t'nai doesn't work and he's going to have to pay, it's still a problem. But let's go back a step. Why is the t'nai not effective? But don't we know that according to Rabbi Meir, the Amar, he said, if you stipulate against the Torah's din, then it's null and void. But if it's only a din d'Rabbanan, like Suba, T'nai Kaim, the T'nai works. So why doesn't it work in this case? Because Rabbi Meir Ksuba d'Oraisa. Rabbi Meir happens to hold that the Ksuba obligation is based in the Torah. We had the discussion a while back. That's a whole different sugya, whether Ksuba is min ha-Torah or d'Rabbanan. Apparently Rabbi Meir holds Ksuba is d'Oraisa. And that explains Rabbi Meir's choice of words. He attempted to deduct from the Ksuba, but it didn't work because it's a t'nai against the Torah. But it's still a problem because it denotes lack of loyalty and lack of commitment, which doesn't allow her to commit herself to this marriage entirely, and therefore it's considered bilasnus. Tanya, we learned in a brayso. We have a three-way machlekes. Rav Meir, who says bilasnus. Rabbi Yehuda, who says, well, a t'nai is not acceptable in this case, but a receipt is okay because she's meichlam. Then we're going to have a third sheet of Rabbi Yossi, who says you can even make a t'nai. Let's see. Tanya, Rav Meir Omer, kol ha'peiches lebesula mimasayim. If one deducts from the 200 deserving to the besula, ula almana mimana, or deducts the 100 from the almana, from the 100, harezu b'lasnus, inappropriate. And as we just explained, even if he attempts to do so, it's lacking in commitment, lacking in that cohesion of marriage. Rabbi Yossi Omer, Ra'ashay. Rabbi Yossi takes on a shita to the other extreme, just the opposite. Not only is a receipt acceptable, you can actually stipulate in advance, I'm not giving you more than 100. Apparently, Rabbi Yossi is not concerned about the discussion we had before. You don't need to make a chizuk, Yosef Mishal Torah, you can make it tonight. It's a davar sheba moment. You can make it tonight. Rabbi Yehuda Omer, a receipt works, but not a condition, as we explained before. Rotza, if he chooses, he can get a discount by writing a receipt. He commits to 200, right? Vika Sevaslan, she responds with a receipt. His kabaltim chamana, I received 100. Or ulalmana money, he commits 100 to the almana. Vika Sevaslan, she responds by issuing a receipt. His kabaltim chachamishim zuz, I got 50 zuz. But according to Rabbi Yossi, you can actually make a t'nai ba'al peh to deduct from the ksuba. Rabbi Yossi rashoy, is that so? That according to Rabbi Yossi, you can rearrange the ksuba commitment. V'ramini, we have a kasha. Listen to this price. One is not meant to designate, to earmark items to serve as a collateral for his wife's kesuba. You know what's wrong with that? We're concerned that it might not be successful. It's not giving her proper security. It might get lost. It might go down in value. Amar Rabbi Yossi, what are you accomplishing in terms of a proper arrangement by offering metaltal and mobile items? Fact is, their value is not set and established. It's a fluctuating thing. They go down in value. Why would you want to commit items? That's not a proper commitment. That's not a proper arrangement for the ksuba. Now, what's Rabbi Yossi coming to add? Tanakama nami einos and kamar. Didn't the Tanakama say the same exact thing? Don't use metalton for this very reason. What's the machlekes? What's he coming to add? Apparently, this is what he meant to say. Tanakama says, don't use metalton, right? But when is it a concern? When the husband hadn't, accepted upon himself responsibility. He hadn't really warranted these items. Then if they get lost, the ksuba commitment is gone. Don't use it. In that case, aval kibul of achrayis. Let's say the husband went a step further. He committed certain items and he was makabel achrayis. I guarantee these items. Meaning, if they get lost, I'll replace it. Well, I'll give you something else instead. In that case, it's okay to use these items for the ksuba. That's the Tanakama. So Rabbi Yossi comes Rabbi Yossi and he adds an additional concern. He's speaking about the whereabouts of the items themselves. Fine, but kibul of achrayis. Even if he accepted upon himself the achrayis for the items, lest they get lost, why would you use them? They don't have a set value. They're going to fluctuate. They might go down in value, in which case you'll lose the entire collateral or a substantial portion of it. End of price. So Rabbi Yossi is very concerned about her losing even a portion of her ksuba payout. So now we have a kash. Hashta. Let's come think about this. If even in that case, the dilma pachse, where there's a maybe concern, maybe they go down in value, chayish Rabbi Yossi. Rabbi Yossi is very concerned. Don't get involved in that. She must have her ksuba payout absolute, assured, and guaranteed. Certainly in our case, the vadika pachsa, certainly the ksuba is going down from 200 to 100. He's knocking down half the ksuba in advance. He's committing only to half. Like Koshkin. Of course, Rabbi Yossi would not be okay with that. So why does Rabbi Yossi say a person could knock down in advance? Commit only to half the ksuba. Big difference, says the Gemara. How are you going to compare the two things? So in the case of the collateral, la yada, the tachel, she has no idea. It's going to go down in value. She didn't intend on giving up anything. And suddenly, boom, it's down in value. So that's a concern. But in our case, she knows full and well. Yada become machla. She knows full well that he's only giving her half. This is what he's committing to. She's machla the rest. That's fine. It's up to her. Say the Rami Bar Chama. Rami Bar Chama's sister, Havas Nasiva, was married l'Rav Avi. Irkas Kesubos, so suddenly her ksuba went missing. Also, come to Rav Yosef. They approached Rav Yosef. Amalu. So he says, no problem. Hachi Amar Vidam Shmuel. Shmuel says like this: Zu Divir Rab Meir. This whole halacha, you can't rearrange the ksuba commitment. That's all Rab Meir is speaking. Rab Meir is concerned about the isha being assured, feeling secure in this relationship. So according to him, if you don't have the actual ksuba, shtar ksuba in your possession, it's lacking in loyalty, lacking in commitment, lacking in assuredness. It's lacking in her being soymech das, and therefore lacking in cohesion. You're not meant to continue like that. You have to write yourself a new ksuba. Rashi says, without an actual document, she's thinking to herself, come the day, I won't be able to get a penny from him. I'll have a claim without any proof. And therefore the entire, relationship is sort of on shaky grounds. Right? Because it's easy for him to get rid of her if he's not going to have to pay for it, right? So the entire marriage is not on solid footing. That's Rabbi Meir's sheet. So you must rewrite your shtar before you continue. Aval Chachamim, the Chachamim disagree. They say, the fact is, there is a legal commitment. A person could hold on to his wife 2-3 years, even without a ksuba. So in that case, you don't have to rewrite your ksuba. The ksuba is an absolute standard commitment. Okay, you lost your ksuba, not the end of the world. Abai responded, Va'amar of Nachman, Amar Shmuel. He quoted Shmuel as follows. Halacha Rabbi Meir b'gzei roisa. We do follow Rabbi Meir when he enacted chumrais, such as this case. So he said, if that's the case, Ihachi says Rabbi Yosef, Zilk Seivla, quickly go and rewrite your ksuba, then continue as married. Okay, let's recap today's daf. We started with a reference to Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah's shita that a sefer ksuba only kicks in after marriage. The question was, does chuppah do that? And even if chuppah does, what about chuppah asnida? According to Rabbi Yehuda, we typically don't write a sheva, rather we rewrite the loan document from today's date. But suddenly by the ksuba we find a sheva. Why? Two answers. Either the sheva was actually inserted into the ksuba, in which case there's no losing anything, or in this case, since he didn't really deserve the shaver, so if he loses it, it's totally his fault. What if a person decides to make a tznai sheba mamay? Or by rearranging a din Torah, Rabbi Meir says it doesn't work. According to Rabbi Yehuda, it does work. Now regarding ksuba, Rabbi Meir says, even if the tznai is worthless, but the fact that he's not really offering the proper amount, that generates a shakiness in commitment, a shakiness in the loyalty. She's not soymech das, and it's inappropriate. According to Rabbi Yehuda, although a tnai, a verbal stipulation ahead of time doesn't work, because even though ksuba is midrabanan, Chachamim made a chizuk and don't allow manipulation. Demai is an exception because it's only a safek or because it's only a chumrah. We have two terutzim. But even by ksuba, if she chooses to write him a shayvar, a receipt, that's an expression of mechila, forgiveness. He was chayiv, but she gave it up. That's okay. The third shita, which is Rabbi Yossi, that even a tnai would work by ksuba ahead of time. And the reason was because she was meichlet ahead of time, and it's within her right and within her ability to do so. All the best to you and Hatzlacha, Rabbah.